Welcome to the Millennial Body Image Project, where we dive into the unique and messy body image journey that continues to shape our generation.
We're here to flip the script on toxic wellness culture, challenge weight stigma, and tackle the intersectional forces that shape how we see our bodies and our health.
Because your body is not a problem to be fixed. I'm excited about this episode.
It's a scam, I tell you. It's a scam.
I know, it's making me think of like 1920s kind of vibe. Like, it's a scam, I tell you. Like a news reporter.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Newsflash, summer bodies are a scam.
Yeah. You know what? I want to put this out there. I think like the main things that we're really getting into today with this episode is what even is a summer body and why are we still trying to earn one? And if we don't want to do this or we're learning part of this episode is to educate you on the cultural origins of where this came from and then teaching you or giving you tools if you decide to opt out and how you can do things a little bit differently if you don't want to prescribe to this kind of narrative anymore.
Yeah. You know, I think we had made some progress with this over the last couple of years, you know?
Whew. And then
here we are, skinny talk and Ozempic. It's interesting because a couple of years ago during the season of the vid, we had this course called The Body Image Audit, and we talked about in that course how your body is not a report card at any time of year, but especially when the summer comes around, it can feel like your body is a report card for how, quote, well you have done the rest of the year to fix things that you weren't happy with the summer before or the year before or in many different years. And when our bodies tend to be more on display, because if you live in a warm climate, you tend to be wearing clothing that is not as covered up, your body does feel like it's more on display in the summer. And there seems to be this pressure of, oh, I need to prove that I was doing something. And I'm looking for that approval of, oh, people will think one way about me if I have changed my body in a smaller way, or people will think a different way about me in not an approving kind of way if my body has changed in a gaining weight kind of way.
yes, but you know what you just described kind of perfectly is the moralization of bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ultimately what it is. Like there's a good body and there's a bad body. And somehow if you are smaller than you were last year, then you are doing things within alignment of being quote unquote good. But you know what, guys? There was nothing wrong with your body to begin with. Because our bodies are not a product to be sold. It's not how it works anymore. Or at least, God, I hope not, right? Like, I guess
that's what they're trying to do.
That's propaganda that I'm opting out of. That's propaganda that I'm opting out of for sure.
Yeah. I mean, on that trend, this is propaganda that we are opting out of.
Yeah, summer bodies. Yeah.
Boom, end of episode. No, just kidding.
We'll leave you with that. Okay,
yeah,
guys? Right. Boom.
No, but as we were planning for this episode and we were digging into the roots of like, where did this concept even come from? Because when we were researching for that course that we did do 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Oh my God, longer than that, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, we did do some preliminary research into this, but the 2020 was a whole year and I feel like we blacked out mentally a lot of that stuff. So I did not remember looking at the origins, specifically in the US, of where the term summer body and bikini body came from. So I wanted to go into that because I found that super interesting and then also very illuminating and a permission slip also to be like, this is all marketing and diet culture before diet culture was a thing. And they're just trying to make you think that you don't have something that you need. And oh, here's the solution, but you just got to pay to play.
Oh, always got to pay to play. I think it'd be really fun to go into the historical roots of this too, to let you guys see how quickly this has been the rise of the wellness and diet industry as a whole, and you can kind of see it as it's coming along. So interestingly enough, in the 1920s, we were enforced, let's use that word that's clear, to dress modestly. In fact, I was telling Elodie this the other day because she was saying how it was unfair that boys got to take their shirts off when it's hot out and she doesn't get to. And I said, yeah. And I told her, I was like, that's the patriarchy. And we started talking about it and all this kind of stuff. And I was telling her about how she's 6, guys. And but I'm starting her education early. And so I was telling her about how there once was a time when women weren't even allowed to wear pants without being cited and maybe even put in jail. Like there's a lot of things that were going on. So at the time in the 1920s, when all this was going on, our modesty in dress was enforced. And women had to wear full coverage swimwear. We had to be covered up, all the things. So body exposure in public was limited and the body shape was left less emphasized because no one wanted to see women's bodies. They were like, oh my God, that is for their husbands only kind of vibe. And then as women had more independence post like World War II, there started to be more of a rise in beach culture and the starting off with more form-fitting swimsuits and bodies were beginning to be seen more publicly and Hollywood glamorized thin athletic figures and started placing this like kind of seed here for we were now allowed to see women's bodies. And it's really interesting too because I think it really showcases also about whose bodies were allowed to be seen as beautiful and carefree too. And it's really interesting about how, as you can see, as we had more flexibility in what women were allowed to wear for the consumption of the male gaze, how things in the diet and wellness industry started to rise at the same time.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to note through this whole episode the underlying current of wondering like, okay, well, even among all of this progress, whose bodies are allowed to be seen as beautiful and carefree, right? Because we talk about in the 1920s, post World War II, white women specifically had gained more freedom, not Black women, not women in marginalized bodies, and not anyone who has any marginalized identity as well. So it's almost like the white women got it first, and then you start to increase eventually. And it's interesting because we're also going to talk about where the bikini body came from and what the origin of the term bikini body came from. And that was in the 60s, which is also the rise of the civil rights movement. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so one subsection of people are over on this side and one subsection of people are working for a way greater cause, let's just say, on the other side of things. But then when we move into the 30s, so now we've talked about, okay, white women specifically have gained a little bit of independence, at least in comparison to what it was before. You then see post World War II, there's a lot we think of like the classic pinup girls and Betty Boop and a bunch of this stuff. In 1946, the bikini was introduced in France. Of course, can I just say, of course, in France, but it didn't really gain popularity in the US until the 50s and 60s. So we're talking like post World War II, but during the Cold War. And so then this is when you start to see really like the pinup culture and the Hollywood is really emphasizing the hourglass figure as the ideal. Again, only with approved bodies, let's say. And so you're looking at someone who has a little bit more of a voluptuous figure, but still a tiny waist. And so this is so interesting because when we think about evolving beauty standards over the years, if you think about like the 1920s and the flapper era and stuff like that, it was like a very almost androgynous, very
Yeah.
narrow shape was really like in fashion, right? And then the beauty standard is now changing to, okay, you have to have an approved body, you have to have like basically a white hourglass figure with a tiny waist. Ironically, this is coming back.
I
And
know.
this is where beach ready, quote unquote, bodies became aspirational. And this is where we also start to see, hello, diet culture, more marketing around, oh, sugar and around, oh, this is good for you. And oh, aspire to have this. Now, are they necessarily using those words? Probably not. But it's like, isn't this amazing? You could be so happy. If this is what you look like? Just smoke cigarettes and then you'll get it, which is what a lot of people were doing at the time. And this is where we start to see the themes of not just morality in this, but this is all marketing.
Guys, there was once a diet in a women's health magazine back in like the 60s or something that was literally a cigarette and a Chardonnay for breakfast, a cigarette and a Chardonnay for lunch. And that was a diet that was prescribed and told to people in major magazines. This was also the rise of the time where they were giving housewives and women speed
Yeah.
because it was like how to keep a trim figure and stay on top of all of your housework and take care of your children without wanting to like lose your mind. They were giving them speed in order to, suppress their appetite, have them keep up with all the different things that they were doing and all this stuff. And this was common prescription, completely common, normalized prescription that people were getting. And so I think it's important to put this all into context around, like, think about it this way. It started off in the 1920s when we weren't even allowed to wear skirts. I mean, we weren't allowed to wear pants, and we were also fighting for just the right to vote. And then all of a sudden, in less than
Which
20,
apparently we're still doing now.
still
So
still fighting for that now. So 30 years later, not long, right? That's like someone's birth to adult age. Now we're talking about getting speed, getting all these things, bikini bodies, all of this stuff, the messaging around being this like perfect looking, have your ish together, look a certain way, female figure and kind of model for what we were supposed to look like. And a lot of this was to keep us in a certain type of environment in our home and keep things like, where we quote unquote belonged, right? But
well,
also looking a certain way. And so we think about too, like the modern evolution of this. How has the idea shape shifted into wellness culture? We're now looking at tone up. We're looking at detoxes. We're looking at lean for the summer. Think about every single cover of Shape magazine you've ever seen at the airport or any grocery store. It is all right there. And even still, like even body positive, quote unquote, influencers subtly influencing and promoting the right kind of visibility. What bathing suit's right for your body type? What hides these aspects of your body? And all of the different things. There's so much around that as we're seeing it kind of evolve. And it's really coming from this place of women being kept into a certain type of box and what we're supposed to look like and what we're not supposed to look like. And if you step outside of that, well, then you're not following in line, right? I mean, that's ultimately where this is coming from.
there's a lot of that these days, just saying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about the rise of trad wives and everything and coming back to all of this. I mean, there's so much of that going on right now.
I saw a really funny reel, speaking of Tradwives, yesterday where one of my friends, Anya, who I think was on the podcast a long time ago, we're talking about like in the maybe in the 1 to 50 range of episodes, and now we're at like 350 something. She reposted this reel where someone said when he said he wanted a trad wife, but he didn't specify what era. And so it was a woman who was dressed in her like indigenous hunting garb, and she just like gnawing down on a turkey leg. And I was like, yes, this
Yeah.
I love.
Specify the era, guys.
Or,
but I think,
not.
or not.
Just,
or
like, leave it.
don't. Just don't. Just don't. Just don't. But yeah, it's interesting too. And I think what we're seeing right now is like part of this as well is we have so much access to other people and seeing people all the time through social media that it can really lead us to feeling the sense of comparison. And I actually was just having this conversation with Casey about how quickly your social media algorithm can send you down a pipeline to make you feel like this is the only thing that's happening. And yet it's actually just your algorithm that's sending you down this pipeline. I was saying that to Casey. I was like, well, you've heard about RFK's raw milk stuff and like how he wants to take away pasteurization. And Casey's like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, there's no way he's trying to take away pasteurization. I'm like, yeah, he is. And we were talking about it, but it was really interesting. And sometimes Casey will come to me and tell me about something. And I'm like, wait, I never even heard about this. Like, what are you talking about? And so I think it's really interesting and something to be aware of about how so fast you can feel like everyone is doing this one thing, or everybody looks a certain way, or everybody is following into this thing because you're seeing it so much on your social media. But really what you've been sent down is a algorithm rabbit hole where that's where you're being stuck. And so actually, if you look at a broader perspective, not everybody is actually doing that. And
Mhm.
it was really interesting to me to say to Casey, like something that I was seeing so much because I'm in the nutrition world and everyone's talking about it. And like everyone's like, wait a minute, this is terrible. Like that this is happening. Like, why would we take away something that's like keeping us from getting pathogens? You don't even add anything to the milk. You're just heating it up, guys. Like, why would we do that? And at the same and for Casey to be like, no, I've never even heard about this is honestly so telling and so interesting, and how quickly you can get set down a algorithm kind of tunnel and then feel like everybody's doing something. And sometimes I think it's really important to put the phone down, take a step back, and this is where we'll get into like the
Go
tangible,
touch some grass.
like go touch some grass, touch your walls, ground yourself a little bit into like reality. Like, wow, maybe not everyone's doing that. Not everyone is eating these small little portions, what I eat in a day, summer edition vibes. Not everybody is telling certain people what to wear to cover up their mom pooch or whatever they're calling it these days. Some people are just, there's actually a whole other tunnel on social media of people embracing body diversity and embracing their arms this season and embracing all the different things. And it's really interesting how quickly, and yet we continue to extrapolate that and feel like this is what everybody's doing. And then we compare our multidimensional selves to one dimension, one thing that we're seeing repeatedly, and then feeling inadequate as a result of it. And that is scary.
Mhm.
So scary. That
Yeah.
multidimensional comparison thing is from a therapist that I saw online. I'll try to share the things. I want to give them credit, but I cannot remember their name. But it was really interesting how they shared about that.
And it's just tough because as we've talked about with the influencer episodes that we did 2 months ago, I think, and we also had talked about a year ago, we did a phenomenal episode where we talked about the impact of social media and AI on body image, which I
Mm.
will plug in the show notes. But I wanted to go back to there's a 2018 study that I think we've referenced before that was published by the National Eating Disorders Association where they talked about how exposure to media portrayals of thin models and thin bodies causes women and girls to overestimate their own body size, to feel more dissatisfied with their bodies, and to report lower self-esteem. So, if you are someone who likes to watch reality TV or you're in celebrity culture or you follow influencers, like you have seen, whether you've seen Skinny Talk, whether you've seen I mean, we've talked about it, right? Like so many people, not just celebrities, but like people in everyday life are now on these GLP-1 medications, whether they're disclosing them or not, right? Like that's prerogative. That's their prerogative. But it's it's very easy to see how you could become even more hypercritical of yourself this summer than any other
Oh
summer
my God,
before. So
for sure.
if that's coming up for you, it's completely understandable because these like very subtle, and this is more the influencer side of things of like people who say they're body positive, but then they're like, actually, I just want to lose weight. And it's like, jarring. Okay. And again, we've said this before, you can do whatever you want with your body, but it can sometimes feel as a viewer like a bait and switch. But sometimes there's these like very subtle messages when people say, like Christina was saying before, like, oh, here's the right swimsuit for your body type, or here's how to cover up this, or like, here's a more flattering shape, or other stuff like that. Every single one of those instances is rooted in there is something shameful about your body that you should try to put into a certain shape so it's better, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
or it's less shameful. And there are times when you just feel uncomfortable about your body for whatever reason. And if you want to
Totally.
cover up, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like
Totally.
I think I've talked about this in previous summers. As someone who has been coaching swimming and like doing swimming my entire life, objectively, you are going to be thinking about your body more if you are wearing a more revealing swimsuit than if you are wearing a less revealing swimsuit. You're going to be more body critical, even if you are very body confident, even if you have a very thin frame, whatever. If you're wearing a bikini, you're going to be thinking about your stomach more than if you're wearing a one piece, at least in my experience. I'm sure other people can sound off on that as well. But as someone who has been going to the pool for every single one of my 35 years of life and spending a lot of time there, that's just one thing that I've noticed. And there's no reason for you to feel like you need to prove anything to anybody. Like, you don't need to wear a two piece in order to prove that you are confident or body positive. You can
Totally.
wear whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. I think another thing too that I just want to kind of go back to is like, one, yes, I love that permission, but also at the same time, I feel like when, as we're bombarded with this and seeing this so much, and we might all be down this kind of like pigeonholed in our algorithm and what we're seeing, this really does take an emotional toll on us, right? There's a lot of anxiety that comes into
It's
picking out a bathing suit. It's
exhausting.
exhausting. Picking out your summer clothes, getting something that fits, ones that don't ride up your butt, and like all these different things and all these different, especially when you have like kids and you're chasing them around, you might want something that's going to lock things in so things don't go popping out, like, I mean, that's how I feel
Or so
anyways.
kids aren't pulling them down. I feel
Exactly.
that during swim lessons.
Yes, I'm sure. So like there's all these things that kind of come up, and then I think what's important is like this does does create this emotional impact that it has on you, with like Dana was saying, where you can naturally lead you to have more surveillance over yourself, looking at your body more, body checking, things like that. And body checking is a whole nother huge predictor factor for body dysmorphia, body image issues, eating disorder, pipeline, all of the things. And the kind of shame that we get around it when we go to when we go to try on our bathing suits and we feel uncomfortable and we feel like we're putting our body on display. It's normal for you to feel that way. And for us, what we really want you to take from this today is, one, how is that impacting your behaviors? Do you want it to impact your behaviors? And what we want you to take away today is, okay, I'm feeling this way. I'm having a hard time. A lot of my friends are taking Ozempic or talking about their body changes and all the things, and it's really hard on me, or everyone in my family is taking this and I'm the only one who's not, and I'm feeling uncomfortable about my body being on display in front of them, and they're saying I should be getting on it or whatever it is. My doctor's telling me we're feeling the pressure to do this type of stuff, right? We want you to we want to acknowledge that that pressure is there and that it is costing you an emotional toll. It can also be impacting our behaviors as well. And it's totally normal for you to feel dysregulated around this. And what we want to provide you today is tangible ways for you to opt out and to check in with yourself, like, how much do I want to? Maybe the best thing for you is to be like, I'm getting on this. I can't handle it. Like, and maybe that is your choice, and that is totally okay. Right? That's totally okay. We're here for it all. But if you want to name this, understand the roots of where the quote unquote idea of a summer body came from, and that it really is a scam to get money from you and to make you feel like there is something wrong with your body, or that you don't deserve to go swimming with your kids or go wear whatever you want or have to cover up your arms or wear jeans all summer long in the blistering hot heat. We want you to know that there are tangible ways for you to opt out of that and that you do not have to do that anymore.
Mm.
Yeah. So let's get into the tangible things, unless there's anything else that you want to add to that.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that was a very great summation of what we've talked about. It would be shocking if you had never heard of the concept of a summer body, or even if you haven't heard the term, you've seen it everywhere and in subtle ways, right? Like, if you're a millennial, you've seen this at
Oh my
some
God,
point.
seriously.
You've seen it in the grocery store, on different magazines growing up. You've seen the like commodification of women's bodies and the evolution of that, the morality of women's bodies. Christina made a great point before we started recording, and she was talking about how before
Did I
women's
now?
bodies, well, she makes many great points, but this one specifically, I was like, oh, we need to open the episode with that. And let me tell you, I forgot about it until right now, 25 minutes later, is talking about how in the origins of what we were talking about in like the early, 1900s, 1920s, women's bodies always were supposed to be covered up because it was like a shameful thing. And now it's like, how much skin can you show as like a measure for how like good you are or how not shameful you are or how well you did over the past year? Did you lose weight? Have you been doing Ozempic? And we haven't even gotten to like, there's going to be there's such a double standard of like, oh, you lost weight, but did you do it with Ozempic? It's like, God, come on, can we just leave people alone?
Yeah.
Just can we leave people alone? But anyway, what to do
Let me
about it?
live.
Yes, just let people live, my God. Is if you start to notice that you are becoming more body critical, you're doing more body surveillance, you're doing more body checking, and you're feeling like you're spiraling or you're feeling very dysregulated during this time, especially when there are more summer activities, your body inherently feels like it is more on display in the summer, whether it's weddings or you're going to the pool or the beach or vacation, or you're just wearing t-shirts or shorts or whatever you like to wear, right? Start to notice where and when this comes up more often for you and what triggers the feelings to be more intense. And when we say opt out, we don't mean to opt out of situations or opt out of wearing specific articles of clothing or opt out of things that could possibly bring you joy. We mean opt out of the scam that is summer bodies and wellness culture trying to sell you all of these quick fixes and solutions. They are creating a problem to sell you the solution in specific products. So that's something to keep in mind. But it's to notice, where is this coming up? Is this coming up on your social media feed? Is it coming up when you go to the grocery store and you see these horrible magazines like pointing out, oh, this celebrity's body has changed. Can you believe they have cellulite? Do you guys remember those going to the grocery store growing up, like in the tabloids and stuff? But also thinking about when you are exposed to something that is a trigger for you, for your body image, for body checking, and it's making you more self-conscious or anything like that, not only how does it make you feel, but what does it make you feel like you should or shouldn't be doing?
Or you're
And
not doing enough of. That's like another thing too. It's like, I'm not doing enough of this.
Yeah. And then think about, where does that come from? It's
Yeah.
probably from what we talked about in this episode.
Yeah, like honestly, I would also then go back to like, why do I care about this? Right? Why do I feel like I care about this? And then is this something that I actually care about? And why do I care about it? And I think as you go back down through time, you'll start to see, oh wow, this has to do with the scam. This has to do with women's bodies being for male consumption. Like that, this is what this is about. And so then how do we get to, how can I reframe this and be less shame based and help me enjoy my summer a little bit more? Right? Can I call out the language as I see it? Like, oh snap, they're talking about hot girl summer. Okay, whatever. Flip to the next reel, Can I shift my internal language that I'm saying? I should wear something more flattering to what feels good. What do I feel confident in? What do I enjoy wearing? What would feel seasonally appropriate to wear outside today that feels good on my body, right? And then also having more, and I think also too, like that's the main thing too, is about coming from it from this standpoint of being more understanding and calling it out and noticing it, being understanding, being more curious, and then saying, how can I reframe this for myself?
Mm-hmm.
And seeing and saying, okay, I still want to go swimming. So here's here's how I feel best in my body. What feels the most best for me. And so that I can enjoy my summer and do what I want to do. Does that make sense, guys? I hope it does.
Yeah. And here's an example. Let's say you want to go swimming, but you are intensely uncomfortable about wearing whatever kind of swimsuit or lack of cover up or whatever. Try to reframe that as, I am choosing XYZ because it helps me be more comfortable, not because I feel like I should cover up or I'm afraid to have this parts of my body shown or I feel like I shouldn't wear something like that. No, this is a you decision. What's going to help you be able to be more in the moment, enjoy your summer, enjoy your time? I mean, the whole purpose of doing that activity is like, we're trying to do something different. Maybe you're trying to have an enjoyable time with your family or friends or whatever it is. There are certain things we can only do in the summer because it's warm outside. So instead of just being like, oh, I'm just going to sweat my butt off because I'm wearing like long sleeves and long pants and this is going to be a horrible experience. It's how can I try to make this a little bit more enjoyable for myself? And again, not because you're trying to meet other people's expectations. Try to figure out how can you tune in and how can I make this more comfortable for me?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like 100%. Another area too that I think is important, because we've talked about this a couple times around, how easy it is to become entrenched in thinking that this is what everybody's doing. And like we get caught up in the social media feed and our algorithm. I think one thing too is really to start to clean up your social media, and reality check it a little bit and say like, okay, this is not real, right? And adding more body diverse creators. We've talked about this so many times, and people that show up regardless of their body size, that maybe have a differing body size than you in various different ways and all the different things too. I actually going to share a personal story for this. So, and it will lead into the perfectly with the next one. But the next area that me and Dana wanted to talk about. But so my algorithm was getting really caught, and I was noticing myself having body comparison. Guys, I've been doing this for years, been working on this for years, and it still happens with your social media. So I just want to point that out. And then I saw Kate Serino, or however you pronounce her name, post a picture of herself on the beach in a bikini. And she said, just in case you haven't seen a size 18 on the beach yet. And I was like, Kate, this is why I love you so much. Thank you for reality check. Like, because I'm seeing all these people and all these influencers. I'm like, how am I getting down this rabbit hole? And then finally, something refreshing came across my feed. And it was really helpful in that reality check of being like, oh my God, no, everybody has different bodies. Not everyone only looks this one way. And I think that's really important, especially if you follow people doing summer hauls and stuff like that. You can very quickly get sent other people who maybe don't have the same type of diversity summer haul videos, and you're like, oh, that's a cute short, or like that's a cute top, and then next thing you know, you're feeling bad about yourself, and it starts off really innocent, and you're like, oh, damn it, they're all size smalls and I'm not, or they're all like, larger chests and I don't, and next thing you know. So it's really cool and really helpful, and I just wanted to share my own reality check in my feed and how refreshing it was and how it does help rewire the thought pattern in your brain on the spot in that moment, saying, she's awesome. Thank you for doing that. And then you can move on with your feed, and it gives you a little bit more permission. Every time we see someone in our feed doing something that feels like, that they're showing a diverse body or marginalized bodies out there living their lives, because we should be, guys. Okay? That's the thing. You should be, and you shouldn't be hiding anything. And how refreshing it is. And when we see that in our feed repeatedly, that gives us permission internally to do the same thing. And it takes down the amount of comparison and the shame, negative talk patterns that come up when we're bombarded with a certain type of feed. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? I hope that was
And I
helpful.
think that story is a great example of normalizing that this is complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, this doesn't ever go away completely,
Mm-mm.
right? It's like we have been exposed to this for so long and will continue to be exposed to this. So even if you've been working on this for years, not only for ourselves, but literally with clients for how many years at this point, you will most likely still have at least a couple of instances, if not a lot of instances, of like, ooh, maybe I should do something. And then that new recovery voice is like, nope, actually, you don't have to do this at all, right? And that's more of what we're looking for, is the frequency is going to decrease the amount of times that you feel like you should be doing something to change your body, or you're not doing enough to change your body, all these negative thoughts that are coming in. This, again, just to reiterate, is not to say that the negative thoughts are never going to happen again. You'll just have different coping tools of what to do when they come up. Hopefully, they come up more infrequently. And then you're also like, oh, I see that one's coming in again. No, I'm going to opt out of that one. Or like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, this one's coming up again. Maybe I should talk about this in my next therapy session or the
Yes,
next time I meet with Dana or Christina. Or
totally.
it's just, it's important to notice when the thoughts come up, but then not beat yourself up about it. Christina and I have been trying really hard over the last couple of years to not beat ourselves up about when these things come up. And sometimes we'll talk to each other, not recording, and be like, I had a really bad body image moment and I just need to talk about it. And we're like,
Mhm.
all right, let's talk about it. And it's possible to have friendships with other women and other people where it doesn't have to be all about criticizing your bodies. Even if you have friendships with people and you're like, oh my gosh, they talk about like diets, they talk about bodies, they talk about wanting to change themselves. That just means that those aren't your people to go to talk about this stuff. That doesn't mean those can't be your people for other stuff anymore. That just
Yeah.
means that for this specific situation, that's not your safe place. So trying to find or establish relationships or a new phase of a relationship with someone who can be your safe space, I would say is also very helpful.
Yeah, 100%. I think when we were talking about how it's normal for this to come up and stuff, I feel like it's always going to be there until our cultural, societal expectations and things that's so ingrained in us culturally go away. And unfortunately, I don't think that's happening in our lifetime, guys. So, and that is depressing because I was really hopeful that maybe we would lead there. But what I mean by that is by like, it's okay that you're going to have days and times when it's harder than other days, but also at the same time, part of what we absorb routinely is also what gets internalized routinely too. And so anything that you can do to challenge that, call it out, name it, and say, hey, this is what's going on. I don't have to feel this way. I still want to go swimming. So I still am going to buy a bathing suit and I'm still going to do all the things and I'm still going to do all this stuff. And I just want people to know that it's not a problem. You know, you are already summer ready because it's summertime and it's hot out there and we do not want to be sweating buckets out there in jeans and shit.
Mhm.
So I just want people to know that and that you don't have to do anything to change it. It's all ready. And that the entire idea of having a quote unquote summer ready body is deeply entrenched in the wellness industry and in diet culture and the idea of
Racism and the patriarchy and white supremacy.
like literally name the things and it's in there. So
Name the ism.
name the ism and it's there. And
Mhm.
so I think like as we try more and more to unlearn other aspects of the isms, we can unlearn this ism too. And we can opt out of it in small but impactful ways for ourselves.
Mhm. And even if you are being made to feel like your body is a problem, your body is not the problem. It's the body image that is the problem, which is coming from all
Oh
of
my
these
God.
different outside sources,
Beautiful point.
moralization of bodies and everything like that.
What a beautiful
And
point.
we have a lot of additional episodes and resources on this stuff. Every year for the past couple of years, we've done an iteration of a summer image support series or a couple of episodes. So I will link those in the show notes, or if you're watching us on YouTube, it will be linked below. We also have additional episodes in our Patreon community. We did a whole summer body image support series and a bunch of videos and workshops, and we had a body image audit summer quiz and other stuff like that. So I will link all of those below as well if you're interested in checking them out.
Thanks, guys. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it liberates you, even in just the smallest of ways.
Yeah, and let us know what questions you have, what comments you have. We still have a couple more episodes coming in the summer, and at least half of those are going to be body image support. So you can expect more coming your way.
Hell yeah.
Bye, friends.
Bye.